I'm excited to see what you have in store for us.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Amy and Hannah and Western Title. So excited to be here. And it's going to be incredible. We're going to be taking a lot of notes. So hopefully, I know some of you are probably driving. This is going to be recorded. So if you are taking notes, I highly recommend that you get it out because I am a note giver and I am a note taker. And we're going to do a lot of that today. We don't have slides. And I actually love that for you because we're really talking about paying attention and listening to exactly like what I'm going to lay out for you in the process because I am so tired of going to Zooms and conferences and meetings where it's like halfway through we finally get to it. We're diving in. We're just diving right in. Before I dive in, I just want to give those who don't know me a quick background. Once upon a time, I was a full-time real estate human. I got my license in 2001 BF. BF stands for before Facebook. So I did business the old-fashioned way. We didn't have social media, we didn't make videos, and we certainly didn't get clients online. And so, as a proud Gen Xer, I understand what it feels like to honestly be a little bit resentful that in 2025 you feel like you have to be a full-time digital marketer and a content creator so that you can actually just do your business, which you want to help people and negotiate for them because that is your expertise. Also, we're feeling a little bit exposed and awkward. I mean, putting yourself out on video for the world to see and potentially comment on can feel extraordinarily vulnerable. And you also probably feel like, I want to be a relatable human being, a likable person, but I also don't want to become an annoying oversharer. So, how do I do that in content? How do I connect with people and show up as a respected authority, but also somebody who people like, know, and trust? So, we're going to talk about all of that today. So first things first, get familiar with the chat and the Q&A. If you want to drop your questions throughout this time, feel free. You are not going to distract me. I already have a process where I'm going to talk, I'll look at the inbox, I'll talk, and vice versa. So I will not miss your questions. We'll also have a little bit of a dedicated Q&A at the end for the last 10, 15 minutes. So with that, let's go ahead and dive in. The number one question on anyone's mind, or maybe this is the question that you never thought to ask, is how does it all work? How does it all work? How do the algorithms on these platforms work? What can I do to leverage the knowledge of how it works to work smarter and not harder? So, first of all the strategies that I'm going to teach you apply to every social media platform. So, if you love Facebook, if you love Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, they're all pretty much very similar. And every single platform has its own set of algorithms, plural. Yeah, there's a bunch of them going on around there. And what's interesting is I like to reframe or reshift how people think about the platforms and the algorithms. So a lot of people and a lot of coaches talk about the importance first and foremost of creating content, and we're going to get there. But I actually do the opposite direction. I think about how can we use social media and technology as an incredibly smart database? Because everyone in real estate knows that your database is so important. One, you own that database, right? We don't own Instagram. We don't own TikTok. We don't own Facebook. They could go away or you could get hacked, and that would be awful. And you might lose all of your contacts and have to start all over again. But what you do own is your database of the amazing humans that you have served in the past, your past clients, your current clients, maybe it's referral partners. And that's really, really important. So when you think about the social media platforms as a database 2.0, maybe you call it a CRM if you want. Now, why do I say that it's even better than a database? Because think about it this way. If I want to call you, I need to have your phone number. And actually, you need to answer, which is pretty rare these days. So I need to have a piece of information and I need for you to answer. If I want to email you, of course, I need your email address and I'm going to send that email, but I actually have zero context about what's going on in your world when I send that email. I have a database, I send out emails, I send out monthly newsletters. I have no idea what's happening in anybody's life when I send those out into their inbox. But now, if I go into social media, I can get context. I can see, oh my gosh, they're celebrating a birthday, or this just happened in their world. And now I have a personalized, contextual piece of information that I can actually engage with them on. I can help them feel seen as a human being by using social media. And a lot of people are like, but what if I don't really love social media and I don't really want to post and I never want to make videos? That's okay. I'm actually here to tell you as a content coach, which may sound so strange, stranger than strange. It's not about your content. It is about your context on all of these social media platforms. Why? Because we all know that it's about relationships. It's about building trust. And I'm going to teach you how to build trust online. So when I talk about algorithms, here's the really interesting part about algorithms. While they are these things that we don't really control and don't really know what's happening inside of them, one thing that you need to know is that these are computer software systems, and their whole entire goal is to keep you on their platforms longer, right? We know that, right? The longer you're on the platform, the more ads that you can get served, the more likely you are to follow things that are of interest, and therefore you're more likely to come back and spend your time there. So, what is a really important data point to these algorithms? Well, it's who you are talking to. Who you're talking to. Who you talk to matters more than what you post. And let me tell you exactly why. Because when I comment on Amy's posts, or if I send a direct message to Hannah in her Instagram story, what happens is the algorithm wakes up and it takes notice and it says, wait a minute. Chelsea just direct messaged Hannah on her Instagram story. She actually took a proactive action and did that. And because Hannah's a nice person and we know each other a little bit, even if we didn't know each other very well and just through social media, she's going to likely respond. Maybe she'll just tap the heart like, hey, I got your message. Maybe she'll say thanks, whatever it may be. And so now the algorithm sees two-way communication. And so the algorithm says, you know what? I bet that since there's conversation going both ways here, I bet that Chelsea would be interested in seeing more of Hannah's content in the future. And I bet Hannah would also be interested in seeing more of Chelsea's content in the future. So what it does is it reshuffles both of our feeds. So that when I post something next week that has to do with social media marketing and has nothing to do with a personal contextual comment on her Instagram story, guess who's going to be more likely to see it? The algorithm's going to put my content higher up in Hannah's feed so that I'm more likely to see it. So the first step in social media success on any platform isn't about making a content strategy. It's about reframing our mindset to think about your conversations as the most important and original and impactful content there is. And yes, I'm also giving you permission to do less contenting and more commenting, which I guarantee every single person on this call would rather do. I would. I'd rather talk to people in my community every single day than make a video every single day. And I don't make a video every single day, and I don't post every day. Maximum, I post twice a week in the feed. Shocking, right? And here's why. Because I talk to people every day. Now, what am I doing when I'm talking to people? They're telling me what to talk to them about, which is another really amazing thing that we didn't have 25 years ago. When I would call my clients and I would do my semi-annual calls, and I would feel awkward and like, oh my gosh, what if they know that I'm calling, to check in and get a referral? I don't need to worry about what to say, because if I see that somebody has posted something on their Instagram story, they're telling me exactly what to talk to them about. It's amazing. So the algorithms are watching who you comment on. They're watching who you're watching. So if I watch a video and I don't even comment on it, but I watch the whole thing, they're watching that. They're really watching your direct messages. So the idea here is to train our algorithms so that when we decide to post something, the people that we want that post to be seen by are much more likely to see it. All right. So first lesson on any platform is be a good engager. In fact, be what I call a super fan. Now, a lot of people talk about super fans and content, and they say, oh, everybody has to make content so that they can create super fans that are going to be raving fans and share their content. We would love that, right? We would love that. But what I'm talking about is you becoming a super fan of your people's content. Who's the people? Past clients, current clients. It could be ancillary partners. It could be referral partners in different states. It could be small local businesses that you love to frequent as a realtor that is in the area, in the neighborhood that you serve. So think about social media as a database, but it's a database 2.0 because now you have context. Now you can see what's going on and you can easily talk to people. The other really great thing about talking to people through the social media platforms is that there is a very definitive psychological positive feedback loop that most of us don't get through our email. So when I think of email, I think of, oh, I'm going to have to go in there. There's going to be work. People are going to ask me for things and I'm going to have to send things, right? When we think about social media notifications, we have a positive feedback loop because let's say I just posted something about our 12-year-old turning 12, right? If I post something about that, then I assume that people are there to say nice things. Maybe people are commenting on something. Maybe it's somebody reaching out, asking me a question about my coaching or something of that nature. So I'm more excited to open up my notifications because usually when we get a notification, it's people talking about us. Now, that is totally subconscious. We don't consciously realize that, but I share that because social media is a place where people are paying a lot of attention. People are spending more time in their social media than in their inbox and their email. I time block my emails. I only go in twice a day. I find myself going into social media quite a bit. So you have an opportunity totally for free to connect with human beings that are important to you in your world. And when I say connect, I mean make them feel seen. I mean, ask them how their day is, say congratulations. I'm not saying we're going to share what we do in a direct message or how we can help them, because that's really for us. I want you to think about what would you do in real life? What would you do if you were at Target? You would connect, you would say hello, right? So the first step is knowing that the algorithm cares more about who you're talking to and who you're engaging with. And the more you engage with intention and the more you talk to people in the comments and in the direct messages, the more the algorithm is going to show your future posts to those people, which is exactly what we want, right? Totally for free. What is the point of posting a whole bunch of content if the right people don't even see it? And you've probably experienced this where maybe all of a sudden you'll see a post from someone and you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen this person in forever. Where have they been? They probably haven't even been anywhere. But if you're not engaging with people, they're not going to see your content. So one tip that I can give you specifically on Instagram is if I have anyone who's following or who's on the call that is really enjoying Instagram, you may or may not know that they offer favorites lists. What is a favorites list? A favorites list allows you to put up to 50 accounts that you like to follow. So think like, who are the people you really want to create a real relationship with? These are probably past and current clients, right? You can actually say, I want this person to be on my favorites list, right? Nobody else sees it. And then what happens is when you tap on your favorites list, like let's say you decide to do this in the morning, like your zone of genius is in the morning, I'm going to spend 10 minutes engaging, I'm going to warm up my algorithm, I'm going to be a nice human, I'm going to build connections. Now you hit favorites list, and guess what happens? Everything else clears out of the feed. There's no ads, there's no random suggested posts. It is only posts from those humans, which allows you to be more efficient and more intentional. Now, if you're like, oh my gosh, this sounds amazing, like, how did I not know this? Well, think about it. Instagram doesn't want you to be intentional. They want you to rabbit hole and spend hours in their particular app. So if you're not exactly sure where that is, all you have to do is open up your Instagram. Let me go here and I'll give you a little bit of a visual, but I'll describe it to you for those who are maybe just listening. When you open up your Instagram app, you're just going to go to your main home feed where you would normally scroll to see posts. And at the very top left of the app, you'll see Instagram. It literally says the word Instagram and it's in the Instagram font. If you tap on that with your finger, you might be completely shocked and amazed to find out that there is a drop-down menu. Again, why do they hide it? Well, again, I don't think they want us to be very intentional about it. But you will see favorites and you just tap it and then it will say, who do you want to add to your favorites list? And you can just go about adding them to your list. And like I said, nobody is going to know that you've done that. But it's a way for you to stay more intentional because it's really about connecting with the people and not making a bunch of posts. I always say this too. People don't remember your posts. They won't remember your posts from 2 weeks ago. They remember your presence. And how are we present? We're present by supporting their content, leaving comments, DMs, etc. So that's the first thing that you need to know about the algorithm. It's less about the content and more about who you're engaging with. So let's talk about content. So obviously, we are going to be posting something at some point. And one of the most asked questions I get is two forms of it. It's Chelsea, I don't know what's going on. I've been posting for a long time. And I'm posting like really, I think, helpful, valuable stuff. I'm posting informational market updates. I'm posting very high value educational content about the real estate market. Like, isn't that what we are supposed to be posting? Isn't that what people tell us? We have to be value driven. Yes, but nothing's happening. Maybe they're even making videos with them in it and they're giving this really good expertise driven content. And I personally experience this because I love giving expertise driven content about how to build your personal brand, how to make content. But what happens is they're not seeing results that other people are seeing. And or they're like, I'm just not really sure how to show up. Like, is it still the 80-20%? Like, are we still doing 80% professional and like maybe a little sprinkle in of like the humanity? So here's my very, very, very simple system and my simple diagnosis that I give to every account that I ever audit. I again like to keep it simple. I keep it simple because I know myself and I love to come up with an excuse. If I have a checklist of how to make the perfect post and it's 50 steps, I will happily do all 50 steps, even if it takes me 12 hours. And I could spend 12 hours making a 22-second video. I don't recommend that. So that's why I'm keeping it super simple. There are only three types of posts that any real estate human or even personal brand for that matter in any industry needs. And usually the reason that you are feeling discouraged with social media is because you're missing one of these or two of them. Okay, so if you're taking notes, just maybe make like three columns. I just do like 3 lines on my page, right? And I want you to write 3 letters at the top, one in each column. Okay, so column number one, you're going to write a big P. Okay, like the parrot bird, P. Okay, then the second column, you're going to write the letter E as an elephant. And the last column, you're going to write the letter S as in snake. I guess we're going for a zoo vibe today. So P, E, and S. Okay, these are the only content categories you need, and we can even go deeper into each one of them. So let's start at the beginning. P. P is for personal. And I know that that word strikes fear into many of our hearts. I'm not really sure where all of our brains started to associate personal, the word personal, with negative, right? Because really, I would argue that we actually don't keep professional and personal separate. We keep professional and private separate. Okay, so let me expand upon that. I always say this phrase: we need small talk to get to big talk. The human brain, as we connect with strangers, whether it's online or offline, we have a certain sequence that we need to go in order to build trust little by little. And so I always give this example of, let's pretend you're in a conference and you sit down at a round table and there's several other people that you don't know, right? Now, you're at a real estate conference, so you know that they're in the same industry, but they're from all different states and you've never met them. So one of the really common things that we all talk about with strangers is the weather, right? It's always like, wow, this weather is great, or whew, can you believe this weather? And likely you might start talking about the weather. You might start talking about how cold it is in the room. And that other person might say, I know they keep it so freezing in these conferences. I just went to this conference. And you might talk about, where do you live? What state are you from? What brokerage are you at? We always build rapport with small talk. Now, the problem is that on social media, we all got it into our heads that we had to provide value. And value is what I call big talk. Okay. That's the posts that are giving information. Those are the how-tos. Those are the tutorials. I love those. I live there. But the problem is we can't jump from small talk to big talk. That would be like if I'm at that same conference and I sit down and instead of talking about the weather or the temperature inside the conference room or the speakers, I ask somebody how much money they made last year with no context. That would be kind of weird. So in the world of social media, what happens is that the human brain needs psychologically safe topics to initiate a conversation. The key word is initiate. So if you want people to start commenting and engaging on your posts and content, it requires them to, one, either know you really well, or two, if they don't know you really well, it requires them to offer a psychologically safe topic. And most of the time, it's also a question like, hey, does anybody have any recommendations for blah, 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 blah? So we need small talk, low barrier of entry topics. That could be your dog. That could be your Starbucks order. That could be the new restaurant you went to, right? The personal content is not private. Private is whatever you decide that may be for you. Private could be that you don't want to show your kids on social media. That is perfectly fine. You may not want to post in real time. You may not want to ever post your vacation photos, and that is perfectly okay too. But we actually are in the business of building rapport in real estate and in sales and marketing. And so one of the ways we have to build rapport, especially online, is to share content that has nothing to do with what you do as a real estate human. And it could be something as simple as, here's my top 3 books on X, Y, and Z. Here's the Netflix series that I am binge watching now. If you decide to show your family, it could be something like, here's how we celebrated our kid's 7th birthday this weekend. It doesn't have to be a specific type of personal post. But what happens is this. Now, when I see that content that falls into my feed, it does not make my brain burn a ton of calories because our brain is making 35,000 decisions a day and we probably only realize 10 of them. So our brain is moving quickly, right? And your really great, amazing how-to educational piece of content requires me, one, to pay attention, and two, to think in order to formulate a question about the interest rates, about what's going on, in the world right now. So we are much less likely to engage in something that has to make us think. That does not mean we never make those posts, right? What this means is that personal posts are designed for one thing. They are designed to increase engagement. Engagement is comments, people reaching out to you outside of the comments, people running into you at the school pickup line saying, oh my gosh, that post, you know what, that you made, and they maybe don't leave a comment, that still counts. All right. So engagement posts are generally going to be the personal posts. And I highly recommend that when you're thinking about those engagement posts, that perhaps you ask a question, because when you ask a question, when you ask for somebody's opinion, help, feedback, that's when people want to jump in, because ultimately human nature is we do want to help other people. We do want to share our opinion. So you've probably seen a post at some point in your life where somebody said, hey, me and the family are going on a vacation here. We've never been here. Let's just say it's Cabo. We've never been to Cabo. Has anybody got any recommendations? Everything is filled up, right? One, because the people that have been, it's easy. I don't have to think. They're recalling a fun memory, right? So personal posts are usually the reason that the other 2 posts I'm going to talk about now actually get more engagement. Without the personal, you can still get business from these other 2 areas, but I guarantee you, your sales cycle will be much longer. So if you want to accelerate your sales cycle, the key is personal, right? So the next column that we talked about, letter E, elephant, that stands for expertise. Expertise posts. You love these. I love these. This is where we live, right? These are the informational posts, the charts, the how-tos, the tips, the hacks. We love that, right? Because that's value. It is. It's helpful, right? It could be inspirational, it could be motivational, but 99% of the time, it's helpful information. So you're probably not getting a ton of engagement. You're probably not getting the same amount of engagement on your expertise post as you are on your personal, right? And that's frustrating because, like, if you're like me and I'm like, man, I spent a lot of time making that, but this post that I made about my dog is the one that everybody wants to talk about. And this post where I'm telling people how to build a business doesn't get as much engagement. Okay, so let's talk about what expertise posts are for. Expertise posts play a really important role. Expertise posts are going to allow you to be searchable because everything now is a search engine. Everything is Google. And by the way, if you didn't know this, you should go do this today. go to Google, either put in your name or put in someone else, like anyone else that you know of, and put their name in. And now when you get the results, there's a new tab, like where it shows you like the little like tabs, and it says short videos. They are pulling all the videos from TikTok, Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels, and YouTube Shorts and showing them, which is another reason that we need to be doing it. But I share that because I'm telling you that it's no longer just websites they're pulling from. They are pulling from your social media. And a lot of people are more likely to click on an Instagram and scroll through there just because they can get more of a sense of who you are very quickly than going to a website. So search engine optimization, your content is going to be searchable. So let's say that you make a video that answers a question that you get often. And maybe in 6 days, you don't get a lot of engagement, but maybe in 6 months or 6 years, somebody finds you from that video because they typed in the same thing that that other person had asked you. So we need your content to be highly searchable because right now it's a long game and it's always been a long game, and your content will be shared and shown to other people when people are searching. If people watch a video about how to, I don't know, refinish a table, guess what they're going to see? They're going to see more content based on refinishing tables, refinishing furniture, painting things, DIY. So your content could be served in it. That's what that kind of content is for, so that the algorithm can understand, wow, you talk about this topic and you've used keywords, and now we know exactly where to serve you, which is exactly why I have no dentists that follow me. Not one. I have real estate humans that follow me because I have been talking to that audience for years, and the algorithm knows that's my jam. So searchability is what that's for. The next thing that expertise is for is to, of course, build trust, to build authority as you, as the expert who is talking about these topics. Now, I may not watch your videos if I'm not interested in that particular topic, but now that I've had the personal, like right now we've kind of related and we've had a conversation, and once you small talk, you're more likely to small talk again. So because I've seen some of that, I'm more likely now to pay attention when I see your face and your videos in my feed. It's like putting more billboards on the highway, but the highway is this. The highway is me scrolling through my phone, not driving down. And so after a while, because you always engage with my stuff, we talk on stories, and I'm engaging with your personal stuff, then what happens? The law of reciprocity. One day I'm going to stop and maybe watch 10 seconds of your video. Maybe I'll give it a like. Maybe I'll share it with someone because I know that this would help them. The personal stuff accelerated that because without that, it would have taken me a whole lot longer because I'm probably not engaging with your content until I need it. If I'm searching for it, that's different. But if I'm just passive, like I worked with you 10 years ago and I'm happy as a, happy as I can be in my house and I'm not going to buy another one, well, we've got to remember that person's probably not going to buy for a while. So how can we still keep those people engaged as well? How can we get them to share your content with somebody else who's thinking about relocating? So the expertise content is for building trust, building authority, and searchability. It's also for one last important thing. It's for shares. Nobody's going to share your vacation photos, as that would be weird, right? We would not do that. But helpful content, we're more likely to share. Why do I care about that? Because shares is how you grow organically. Shares from somebody that I trust. If somebody sends me something and says, "Look at this," I look at it. I don't even have to know who the person is. I don't even have to research it. If my friend says you need to follow this person, I'm followed. No questions asked, right? So you're already getting a buy-in saying, hey, I vouch for this person. So shares from individual to individual, really important for your business, okay? Because that's already like a very hot lead. Also, shares in general of your helpful or your local information. Like maybe you like to go to the local coffee shops and you like to review them. And a lot of people are more interested in local stuff than local real estate stuff. So you're more likely to get that stuff shared and therefore grow new eyes, grow new followers. So expertise is not for engagement. If you get comments, we love that for you. And you will get comments, but don't get discouraged. if you are making really high quality value expertise based content and you are not getting a whole lot of comments. It's not what it's for. Personal is what that's for. Okay. Also, if you are discouraged, make a personal post. Make one expertise and one personal post if you want in the same week, and you'll see that people are actually there. Okay. The last one, S, what was it? Snake? Yes. I don't know why I'm thinking about animals today. The S is for sales, and sales is just that, to get people to convert, to take an action. And sales posts in your world would be your just listed, your just sold, testimonials, events, could be a client appreciation event, it could be an open house. Okay. Now you already know that those like do not get comments, right? Maybe one nice person says something, maybe someone shares it, right? But by and large, sales is not for engagement, and it is not to build your expertise, and it's not to build trust. It is to get people to say, ah, yes, I am ready to buy. It is social proof. It is like, hey, you've seen me do all this stuff, this expertise stuff. Look, I'm proving to you that I do. And so what happens is a lot of us live in only expertise and sales. Some of us only are posting sales stuff. Okay. We're not even really posting expertise stuff. We're just posting just listed, just sold, etc. And then what happens is crickets, like you're not getting any results. It's because you don't have all three, because one leads to the other. And so you start the engagement over here, the relatability and the likability and the like, no trust on the personal. They start to pay more attention on the expertise and then eventually start engaging, maybe start sharing. And then lastly, sales. We need to know how we can work with you. We need to be reminded. We need to know what your area of expertise is. We need to know that you're going to market my home like you marketed this home that you showed me in social media. That is to get people to take action. And that is the one area in my own personal social media that I suck at. Like, I really need to get better at sales, but I want to be transparent and tell you that one of the limiting beliefs that I've had for a long time, and maybe this, will resonate with some of you, is like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be like the salesperson that's always like selling everything all the time and, telling people about my coaching or whatever. You guys, that couldn't be farther from the truth. I haven't even done a sales post this year. And you know what happens every time I do? And I say, hey, doors to my coaching program are now open, or you can book a one-on-one with me. You know what happens? I don't get a lot of comments. Very rarely do I. I get sales because people see it and they do not comment on it. They go right to the link. They go right to my website. And every time I'm reminded, how funny, here I am thinking I don't want to oversell. People don't know. People tell me all the time, I had no idea that I could book a one-on-one with you. Well, you know why? Because I don't tell you. So we need to have those posts. So that's why if you've been feeling discouraged, it's likely because we're living in expertise in sales and we need some of the personal. So I know that I was doing a lot of talking there. I see one Q&A. I don't know if anybody else wants to take a pause. I'm going to take a pause and look in the Q&A. If you have any questions, feel free to use the chat, use the Q&A, whatever works best for you. Here's a question. Should I post every listing? Sometimes I wonder if I'm boring my audience. Okay, that's great. So this is like the perfect timing to talk about that. We need to market. We need to share what we're doing. And, like, let's say you have like 15 new listings. Like, this was a great week for you. You're like, whoa, 15 new listings. Wow, that's amazing. That is amazing. You could also, instead of posting every single one, you could make a collage. I don't know if you're on Instagram or if you're in Facebook, but Facebook has that, I guess they're called albums. I don't know what they're called anymore these days. You could make a carousel post in Instagram where you scroll through. So there are ways to make one post with multiple information. But here's the thing, you've got to balance it out. We have to market. Right? Our clients are expecting us to market. And is social media the only place for marketing? Of course not. But you might get somebody who loves social media and that's where they're excited to see it. You could be using YouTube, you could be using mailers, you could be using just open houses. So there's so many different ways to be marketing the listings. The problem is if all you're posting is that, you're not going to get any engagement. And that's okay because it's not what it's for. But we need to work in some of the other stuff. So with the P, the E, and the S, the personal expertise in sales, you don't have to post 3 posts a week. Like if you want to, and you're like, oh, this is going to be really helpful for my brain to post a personal on Monday, expertise on Wednesday and my listings on Friday, great, go for that. But I don't post 3 times a week in the feed because I know long term that's going to burn me out. I post once or twice a week and I'm not specific about it. I'm not tracking it. Generally, lately, I've been trying to do one personal, one expertise a week. So that's another way that you could look at it. Could you do 2 expertise in a week and not a personal or a sales? Yes. Then maybe the next week I would encourage you to add in something there. So that's the only thing I'd recommend. Also, um, there's a realtor that I recommend, and I don't know where I should drop it. Maybe Hannah or Amy, you can type it in the chat. I don't know if Q&A is the best place to drop it. He's in Canada, and I always like to recommend him as an example to watch for listing videos. He's really built a personal brand being in the listing videos. Now, of course, take it with a grain of salt. He's got a team, a videographer. Like, I don't have a team. I have this. So you can take elements from it and make it your own. But first name is Brad and last name is McCallum, McCallum. So good person to get some inspiration from listing videos. Thanks for dropping that in there, Hannah. Okay, so we've got a mortgage LO that owns their own company. Great. Is it better to market on Facebook or Insta under the company account or personal account? Seems as the business account, I won't be as interactive versus personal. Yes, I love this question. And it's like you read my mind because this is exactly what I wanted to talk about. This goes for any industry. So real estate, mortgage, anything in between. Facebook kind of ruined it for us, right? Because like, I know what you're thinking. Like, Facebook made us do this. Facebook was like, hey, everybody, we've got this great idea. We're going to make business pages, and all of you are going to get one. And none of us like our business page, right? Because it doesn't get any engagement. Why? One, because we only have expertise in sales posts, no personal. Okay. And a lot of it's just sales, not even expertise posts. So what happened is it's the content, right? And number two, they ran out of room in the feed a long time ago on Facebook. And so now what they're doing is like, hey, if you want to push that boost button, we'll make sure that this gets placed in more people's feeds. So because we had that world of personal and business Facebook for so long, when we went over to Instagram, it made total sense for us to be like, oh, yeah, I need to have a personal, I need to have one for business. And so if you already have 2 accounts, which sounds like you probably do have a business and a personal, you probably honestly feel the same way where you're like, oh yeah, it's Wednesday, it's posting day. Just post like, I don't know, some chart. Let's talk about interest rates. I don't know. Nobody's going to engage with it anyway. So you have my permission to focus on 1 account. 2 accounts is twice the work. And if you don't have the human in the account, and you could be talking all expertise, you could be making all videos with you in it, talking about mortgage, you're in it still, right? That's human. That's the human element, right? The only way you can make content original is by putting in your person, your personality, and your perspective. Everything in mortgage has been done. Everything in real estate has been done. So the only way that you can create original content is by putting you in it. So there is no way to like merge the accounts, unfortunately, on Instagram, but you're right. People engage with people. People buy from people. And so it's important that there is a person in that content. So I would say, I don't know, pick which one. It doesn't have to be personal. You can pick the business, but you got to make sure that like you're actually in it, and then you can pick one and focus on that. The only problem is that if you've got those 2 Instagram accounts, you're probably following different people, and different people are following you on each account. And that's kind of a manual pain to go in and like make sure you're following the right people if you're going to kind of focus on one. Okay, Kara, I have a brokerage page. What types of posts could I do for something personal? So my first question would be, if I went to your brokerage page, would I see you in most of the content? Even if it's a business page, I still want to see the personal brand, because here's what we're selling is we're selling ourselves. We're selling trust. We're not selling houses, actually. That happens to be a byproduct of what we do, but we are a personal brand. And even as a brokerage, right? If you are attracting other people, you as the philosophy, the culture, the humans in it are going to attract those other people. So let's talk about some personal but not too private posts. And for those of you who are so inclined, I would love it if you would follow me on Instagram. I'll put my link down here, or if maybe Hannah, I'll just drop it in here. But the reason I'm sharing that is because I just posted this week a very comprehensive carousel post that is on this exact topic. And in it, I give so many examples of personal but not private content that you could be using. And I broke it down by topic. So like hobbies, family, mindset. Okay, so I just dropped my link to Instagram in the chat, not the Q&A, but in the chat. And so you'll see, I think it looks like the first picture looks like I want to be relatable, but I'm afraid that I'll become an annoying oversharer. So it looks like a little Google search page. So here's some ideas, right? You could talk about, if you want to talk about the brokerage, the people in it. Like, what are the personalities of the people in it? Like something that is so unrelated to real estate. Like, I don't know why this popped in my head, but you know how like everybody under the sun has done some kind of like personality test, like Enneagram, DISC, some people are into human design. Like it could be like the office staff by personality type, right? It could be something like that, where it's about the people and that is personal, but that is not going to be private, right? Now, if it's for you specifically and not like the business, right? Another couple of examples. In fact, I'll just like pull it up here because I'll just look at my post and see what I did, because I don't know why I wouldn't do that. So let's see. I said, uh, oh gosh, now it's like giving me something to open up on Instagram. Let me go to Canva. Let me go right here. You know what? I'll show my screen. Can I show my screen? Will you guys let me show? Is it allowed to show? Probably. Let me know.
Go for it.
Okay, cool. Oh, thanks for putting that in there too. I'm a visual learner, so I just like to see it. So let's just do that. Okay, let me pull it up here. Now, you have to know that I am really trying to go and get creative because I'm so tired of like the boring, like, well, share a hobby. Okay, got it. So just so you know, these are going to be real specific. All right, share. Okay, let me know if you can see my screen, and I'm in Canva. So let's go here. Okay, so this is what we just talked about, small talk, big talk. Okay, let's look at hobbies. This is personal, totally human, not private. So, how about the ever-growing to be read pile that's become a literal structural element in your home? I have one. You know what? I just put them away today because I was like, do I really need all 7 of these books stacked next to my nightstand? But you know what? You could literally take a picture of it and be like, I love this book because maybe you are a very specific genre of books that you like, right? And then you ask, what do I need to read next? Because obviously I haven't even gotten to these, but I need to go out and buy 2 more books because nothing makes me happier. It could be the podcast episode that made you sit in your car long after you arrived at your destination. Specialized tools that you bought and used exactly once. So these are things that you could see how people could be like, oh my gosh, been there, done that, totally me. Or, and it gives them like a little bit of insight into like who you are and what you're interested in. Maybe you love to binge watch shows like I do. Well, maybe you have like all the best recommendations. And so this one, underrated shows, so niche that Netflix's algorithm can't even categorize them properly. People started to ask me, can you please make a highlight on your Instagram your Instagram story highlight so that I can see what you're watching, because you always recommend the best stuff. Okay. Nothing to do with me as the speaker, as the coach, but everything to do with me creating conversations that now people say, oh, I feel like I know you, right? Family. Even if you don't want to show your family, this is you making the content about it. So you can still incorporate family or the concept of family without showing them. This is again from my life, your family's version of the everything drawer and what bizarre items live in there. We have one, and there are bizarre items in it. The unhinged yet semi-iconic things your parents did that you now realize were low-key genius. Or if you grew up in the early 80s like I did, perhaps there are some unhinged things that your parents did that would never fly today, right? So the weird skill you inherited from a relative that randomly comes in handy. Now you also might be thinking, I feel like this is stuff I might put in my stories, but not put in my feed. Exactly. We've been so used to putting this in our stories and not in the feed. And let me tell you why. It's working now in the feed because our brain gets tired of seeing the same thing. Our brain gets tired of seeing the same studio setup with the blue up light and the captions coming in and me talking about a hook and giving it a hook and going into it and giving you the tips, like, right? So now when we see somebody sitting in their parked car talking to me like I'm on a FaceTime, my brain says, this is different. This is real, right? I'll give you one more. And then if you want the rest, please go to my Instagram. And if you share it, just tag me so I can say thank you. Local, your highly specific criteria for what makes the ideal neighborhood bookstore or coffee shop, fill in the blank, right? Your personal awards for businesses with tiny details that make a big difference. This is one that I literally just did. The quest to find genuinely good gluten-free alternatives that fooled even non-gluten-free friends. Like I did a taste test at my favorite local place. So there's so many different ideas that you can do, but we often discount the personal stuff because we think our life is boring. Like, who cares? What could I possibly talk about? And a lot of these things we already do. We just share them in person when we're in conversation. We don't think to share them to the feed. So hopefully that was helpful and maybe gave you some ideas for that. But if it is sort of a brokerage, like people, like get to know the people, get to know the people in our world. It could be even fun facts. Like, did you know that my hidden talent is that I am a professional ballet dancer? I mean, I'm not, but something like that, where people say, oh my gosh, I had literally no idea. I think this happened to me this week when somebody said something about they were like a professional like singer, like an opera singer. And I was like, how have I known you this long and had no idea you were a professional opera singer? So those are really good ways to be personal without being private. Okay, let me recap for us, okay? One, the most important thing that you can be doing right now that is actually going to move the needle in your business is not about posting. It is about literally talking to people. So I want you, if you're on Instagram, to go set up your favorites list. If you're not on Instagram, that's okay. You can still do this on Facebook. You can do this on LinkedIn. You need to be a super fan of other people's content. If you want more engagement, you need to be the better engager. And so you might have to write a list. You might have to get out your CRM and open it up and say, who are my people? One, you got to make sure you're following them. Not everybody that's on that list is going to be on Instagram. Not everybody's going to be on Facebook, but follow your people, right? And then start engaging with them and like make that a habit before you scroll down the rabbit hole. I'm going to go in for 10 minutes and I'm going to be intentional and I'm going to go down my home feed or I'm going to go to my favorites list and I'm going to talk to the people that I care about. And they're going to tell me what to talk to them about. If they posted, I'm going to talk about that. If they're posting on a story, I'm going to engage. And that's the first and foremost that you're going to do. Then, when you're thinking about your content, which you guys already have so much content, I know it, right? If you have not been in your content, go to your Instagram grid, look at your stuff, and say, huh, you know what? I can make a video out of this, right? Recycle the ideas. You do not need new ideas. You just need to put you in those ideas. You probably do need to do some personal stuff, right? So there's probably a bit of that missing, but really assess and say, have I really been heavy on expertise? Or maybe you've just really been heavy on sales, or maybe you're really actually heavy on personal, but you're not doing any sales content. So you're not getting any conversions. And people are like, I didn't even know you did that. I love your posts because I love to talk to you, but I did not know you that you did that, right? And so also the last thing we talked about was, business versus personal. Which account should I have? Just one account is great. Like two accounts is twice the work, three accounts is three times the work. So you can use one account. And remember, you don't have to share details when you are recounting a story that is personal. Like I made a post about being a mom who travels for part of my job. That is a very personal post, but it was definitely not private. And it was something that really resonated with a lot of people. I did not give the details of why I made that post. I'll tell you guys, the reason I made the post is because somebody said to me at a dinner at an event that I was at, I said, oh, how's the weather? Where are you at? And oh, do you have kids? And I said, yes. And I said, oh, wow, this must be really hard on your kids for you to travel. And we got into a conversation. I thought, oh, this is really interesting. And so I made a post about it. Did not mention why it came up, right? You can share human elements of your story without going into detail. Or if you want to go into detail, you can. The last thing that I'll share that comes up a lot for people is the fear of being an expert, right? Especially in a world where you're going to make content and then share it to the world and hopefully get some comments, right? Because if you have a perspective, which means your opinion, your analysis, your unique lived experiences that have happened that have shaped you, and you give it, somebody's going to disagree with it, right? And that can happen whether you're talking about peanut butter, if you like chunky versus like smooth, or Halloween candy, or interest rates, right? It could be the most, innocuous topic that people may have a disagreement on. So there is a true fear of being the expert. And so here's what my best tip is for that. If you are nervous about creating content where you're saying, here's the best way to do this, or here's how everyone should do this, it's a little bit prescriptive, right? And have I earned the right to say I'm an expert in what I do and say this is how I think, one of the best ways to make video is? Yeah. But even I am like, I don't want to be prescriptive. So here's what I'm going to do. So instead of saying how this is the best way for everybody to do X, Y, and Z, or if you're buying a house, you need to do this. Instead of being prescriptive, we're going to move to personal. And we're going to say, this is how I, blah, 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 blah. This is how my client, da, 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 da. You're now telling a story from lived experience. And when we share stories, people don't say, that's not true. That's not right. Disagree. They're hearing a story. Maybe they had a different experience. So if you are in that bubble of like nervousness, like reframe it and go from, I'm going to tell people what to do, to I'm going to tell people what I've done. I'm going to tell people what my clients have done. And they're still going to learn the lesson, but it's going to help empower you to make that content and also shine as with the expertise that you have through storytelling.